My name is Julie Hart, and I'm the Senior Director for Standards and Excellence at the American Alliance to Museums. And we're going to talk today about the core documents. And the document we're going to talk about first is Strategic Plan. So a strategic plan is a document that articulates a shared vision for your institution. It sets your strategic direction. It's really your roadmap for where your organization is going to go. In whatever time frame you choose, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, whatever the time frame of your plan, you want to articulate what the institution is going to look like at the end of that period of time. How is it going to be different? And your strategic plan is going to integrate all of your aspects of operation into achieving that goal, to getting you from point A to point B. It's going to list your common goals, and it's really going to unify the organization and all of your operations around it. And it's a very important document to keep everyone focused, because it's very easy to be distracted by the lure of bright, shiny objects and other things that you could be doing. There's lots of fantastic things you could be doing. But again, you have limited resources and you have limited time. So you need to be the most effective and most efficient. And using your strategic plan to help keep you on goal is a great tool. And one of the most important things it can also do for you is articulate and put measures of success in place. That way you can sort of have mile markers on your roadmap to your new vision. There are several required elements of the strategic plan. And again, every core document has a series of required elements. Again, those are the minimum things that your document should have in them. Of course, there are many other types of things, the best practices that could be in your documents. But at the minimum, your plan needs to be current and approved. And that may sound rather obvious that it's current and approved, but a lot of documents, it's easy to do the strategic plan, then it just sits on the shelf, or things around the organization change. World events, economic events, the community around the museum can have impact on the organization, and you may need to revise that strategic plan. Or if you've accomplished all of these goals and action steps in your plan, you do need to move along and do the next one. And you really need to be looking at your strategic plan every year or more than once a year to calibrate where you are. And that's where those measures of success also come in to play. They help you keep you on track and know when it's time to recalibrate. So it does need to stay current, and that does take time and attention to do. And it does need to be approved by the governing body. And I would say that's a true statement for all of the core documents. That's one of the required elements that we put in all of them, that it's approved by the governing authority. Because it's very important, the governing authority has the ultimate fiduciary responsibility for the organization. And particularly a strategic plan is going to be filled with action steps and tactics that are going to require resources. And your strategic plan should also be aligned with your mission. Again, that might seem like an obvious type of statement, but sometimes in my work, working with the accredited museums and the excellence programs at AAM, we see lots of plans that are very ambitious. They're good, they have great big ideas, but they don't align with the museum's current mission. And it's fine if you want to define a new vision for the institution, but part of the strategic plan needs to be rethinking what that mission is. Or thinking about why do you want to, if you're trying to do lots of things that aren't in alignment with your mission, that's a good indicator that it's also time to revisit your mission. And it is a good opportunity when you do strategic planning always to think thoughtfully about what your mission statement is. And there are two big components to a strategic plan and the required elements. And I find museums often struggle with having both of these together. And one is that it needs to have a big picture component. It's a real technical term, big picture vision. That means, sort of what is this grand idea? At the end of the plan, how are you going to be different? What are you going to look like? As well as it needs to be balanced with the operational tactics, how you're going to get there. And that means exactly, who's going to be involved in doing that? What are the resources needed to do that? When's it going to happen? So you need the operational aspects and the implementation aspects as well as the big picture vision. Because just because you write it down and have a grand vision for the organization, whether it means incremental change or steady on or a very transformational vision, it's not going to happen by magic. It's going to take time, money, and resources and thought to get there. So your document also needs to cover all relevant areas. And that, again, needs to look at the totality of the organization and how all the components are fitting together. It shouldn't be just a document that's focused on one sliver of the organization or one particular project. Maybe you're going to be doing some master planning or designing a new facility. That should be in a master plan, or a document that is integrated or supporting and sort of complementary of the strategic plan, but it shouldn't be the strategic plan in and of itself. And I mentioned before about the importance of setting measures of success and the role of the strategic plan in that, but that is a key criteria that I would say most museums are missing in their strategic plan, and it is probably the hardest thing to do, is set out when you're thinking about the vision and you're thinking about those tactics, trying to think 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 years ahead, what those mile markers look like. But it's very important to have something in place to talk about what your measures of success is, because otherwise you're not going to know when you've arrived. How are you going to get there if you don't know what success looks like? And doing that can also help you prioritize some of the aspects of the strategic plan as well. And one other, I guess, best practice that I do encourage all institutions to have in their strategic plan is a summary of the process, to sort of as an archival document and to show who was involved and how it came about. Of course, many institutions going into planning do something traditional like a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, threats and challenges. And sometimes they put that in the plan as well, and that's good, but I think a summary of the plan, a summary of the process of how you got there is very important. And one of the key things in the process of developing the plan, which is very hard for many institutions to do, and one of the pieces that gets left out the most is involving the community. Your strategic planning process needs to have input from your stakeholders in the broadest sense of the word, and whatever that means for your organization. You need to think about your stakeholders, and you need to invite them into the process somehow, in some way, because the whole point of your organization is there to serve the public, so you need to be delivering a product that your public is asking for. One of the other challenges and sort of shortfalls and pitfalls that I see in organizational plans is that they're unrealistic, or they have, again, a grand vision, they have the operational tactics, but then you start to read through the columns in the sort of traditional grid format, if you use that says who's going to do these action steps. And it becomes distressing sometimes to see that the director's name is in every box, or the curator's in every box, or it's just a to be determined. If it's putting too many responsibilities on one person is a recipe for disaster, as well as that then that's not being inclusive, and again, you're kind of, unless you're at a very small organization, you're starting to leave out the rest of the staff. So it's very important that you have a broad base of participation in fulfilling the strategic plan action steps. And you're being thoughtful and realistic about the workload that it's going to put on the staff in doing these things. And a lot of times I see a mismatch of the big vision goals and the action steps. While both pieces are there, they don't tend to work together, or they're not in support of one another. So that's just one of the things that you need to look towards for alignment. And one of the big pieces as well that's missing all the time is resources. Not just the column that might be in your plan that says this project or this action is going to take this amount of dollars, but the lack of action steps that articulate the ways that the museum is going to acquire the money or the other types of resources is going to need to fulfill the big vision that it has.